and was also a way for them to communicate that, quote, your life is in my own hands. Be aware that if I decide that you're going to die tomorrow, you're going to die tomorrow. Again, absolute power corrupts absolutely. These people, the emperor back then, government, want to let people know that your life is in my hands. Whatever I want to do, I'm going to do to you. If I want to kill you tomorrow, you're going to die tomorrow. Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody is doing well. Everything is very good, very blessed on this end. And as always, I give God all the praise, honor, and glory for that. In my case, he certainly deserves it, and I'm sure in most everyone else's, he does too. As you can see, I'm in a different studio. For those of you that tune into me all the time, I am in Italy right now, and I had to find a little spot for us to film because I didn't want to leave you alone. For those of you that are just coming on for the first time, I appreciate that, and hopefully this won't be your first visit, but I am in Italy. I've been here for about 10 days now, some business that I had to attend to, and also when you're here in this beautiful country, you do have to take up the sights and have the food and just, enjoy the culture because it is a magical place in many ways. It's, I think, a top tourist destination now, certainly for this year. It's been very, very crowded here. I'm a little biased. Obviously, this is the homeland of my ancestry. My dad was born here. My mom's whole family comes from here. I still have relatives in Napoli, but it's just a wonderful place. I had never been up north. Every time I was in Italy, I visited the south, but never been up north. And this time we were in Milan and Como and currently in Portofino, and we'll be in Venice to take care of some things before I get home. So for those of you that have been here, you understand that. It's a great place. And for those of you that have not, I hope you have the opportunity to do so one day. Put it on your bucket list. I know you're going to enjoy it, but be prepared to gain a couple of pounds because you can't resist the food. It's hard to get a bad meal here. I haven't had one. The food is just great. I know I'm missing some things in the States. I'm not going to get into it, but we had a couple of things go on the last couple of weeks. We had a very lively, from what I understand, GOP debate. I didn't watch it all, but I heard some things about it. And of course, Donald Trump surrendered in the case in Georgia, the racketeering case in Georgia. I got to tell you this. Have you seen the mugshot? I'm telling you something. I laughed when I saw that mugshot. I wish my mugshots, I've had several of them, look anywhere like that one. It's classic Donald Trump. And say what you want. His campaign's going to clean up, believe me, with that mugshot. Say what you want about the guy. He's very resilient. He just keeps bouncing back. I don't know what the outcome of all this is going to be. Yes, I do have my opinions of it. I'm not going to voice them now. It's not what this is about. But you got to just respect the resilience in this guy. He just doesn't go away. And every time you hit him, he just comes back even harder, it seems. We'll see what happens. But the mugshot, it's just priceless. It's classic. It's unbelievable. I guarantee anyone, I should say, that ever had a mugshot would want it to be that one. Trust me. In his suit, he looks great. He really does. But anyway, so I missed a couple of things, but we'll be back to the States and we'll catch up. Today, I'm going to talk about something. When you're in a certain location, I'm sure many of you have experienced this. You have your iPhone, and all of a sudden, everything starts coming up on your iPhone about the location that you're in. If you happen to be in a department store and you talk about shoes, all of a sudden you're getting advertisements about shoes. Well, I'm in Italy, and I've been getting bombarded with things about Italy, all different topics, about Italy. And it's great because we're here, and some of them are useful, some of them are not. Most of them I just let go. But I saw an article that came up about wine and the Roman Empire. And yeah, I have an interest in wine, that Franzese wine. I happen to enjoy wine. I've been drinking it since I'm 10 years old. My grandfather used to make it in the basement. Of course, I'm in that business right now. But I thought it was interesting. I thought since I'm in Italy, I would kind of summarize the article for you. And I think you'll enjoy it. Now, people, I got to tell you something. This is about the Roman Empire. When you look at the Romans, in the Roman Empire, they ruled the earth. They ruled the world for 300 years. A lot of power. You look at the Egyptians. You look at the Greeks. tremendous power in those governments, Today, look at China, look at Russia, look at the United States. Tremendous power. And I have to tell you something. Talk about mafia, talk about Cosa Nostra. Yeah, we had power on the street, but we don't even compare to the power of these governments. Remember, they make the laws, they impose the laws, they enforce the laws. They do what the hell they want in many, many cases. And, I have to say this, people, and it's been shown throughout history, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think we're seeing that, not only in ancient times, but in modern times. I'm not going to get into it now, maybe in another video, but not now. But I want to read this to you, and I think you'll enjoy it. Again, it is about wine. I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm going to summarize most of it, but I'll give you the title. It's Roman Ruins Reveal How Emperors Used Winemaking in a Lavish Power Play. Now imagine that. Winemaking is not, the most beautiful sight to see. I mean, it's a little bit messy, and it's a process. There's a science to it, obviously, a big science to it. Winemakers will tell you that. But you don't look at it as a lavish power play. I mean, if you go to Napa Valley or any of these great wineries, wine regions throughout the world, they have great wine tasting rooms, and it's kind of elaborate there, but they're letting you taste their wine with the hopes of you liking it, buying it, and then continuing to drink it in the future. So it's the room itself that's beautiful, and they entertain you in a way so that you buy the wine. But the actual process of making the wine is not lavish and elaborate. It's in many cases just the opposite. But the Romans, give them credit, man. They knew how to do things. So here's a little bit of the article. Rome. Fights involving exotic cats, chariot races, and gladiatorial battles. At the banquets of ancient Rome, there was no skimping on dinner time entertainment. I think you know that. If you read the Roman history, obviously you had the Colosseum where they put on these elaborate battles, and they were really into entertainment at their dinner time and beyond. And according to a recent study, sport for elite guests included something rarer too: winemaking as a form of theater. And what happened in 2017, they discovered an area in Quintilli. And what happened is back in the year 2 AD, thousands of years ago, these two brothers found this region, which was about 8 miles outside of the city of Rome. And they thought it was a beautiful place, and they created a wine region out of it. Well, the emperor at the time loved that area so much, and he wanted it for himself. What does he do? He kills the two brothers, and he takes over the region. Now, that's government, okay? That's not mafia, that's not Cosa Nostra, that's not people on the street, that's the government. Now let me ask you this, you think the government still kills people? Do you think they do devious things like that? Well, we know what happened in China, we know what happens in Russia. Think it happens in the United States? Just a thought, I'm not going to comment on that, just a thought. Anyway, let's move on. The Villa of Quintilli used alcohol production for show in what is now believed to be among the most lavish wineries in the ancient world. This makes the 2nd century villa only the second known to have used wine in this way. The discovery highlights the use of wine as a form of power for the privileged in one of the ancient world's bloodiest empires. Now listen to this. The lives of the bad emperors are full of what has always seemed completely unrealistic. In other words, these emperors were so bad, and some of the things that they did, it sounds like it's unrealistic. This is the government. They're supposed to be serving the people, even in ancient times. So some of the things that were said about him doesn't sound realistic. However, something like the winery of Quintilli comes up, and it actually turns out that it's all true, that they really were doing this kind of thing. I mean, they killed these two brothers so they can acquire that land, and they were building special places in order to do it. Winemaking as a form of theater. So we talked about the brothers and how these brothers were killed, and they said many emperors used the villa over the years, with some making renovations and adding to its opulence. The name Gordianus is stamped into the lead pipes at the facility, which suggests that the Emperor Gordian III, who ruled from 238 to 244 AD, built the winery, or at least renovated it. Formal excavations of the villa ruins have been going on since the late 18th century, but the first evidence of the winery didn't emerge until 5 years ago in 2017. Unlike the other winemaking facilities that would have been common in the empire, the Quintilli Winery was extravagantly decorated with some of the finest materials. The floors were not waterproof concrete, but were made of imported red marble. That's strange. Marble floors to crush grapes. Juice from pressed grapes would have spurted from channels in a marble-lined facade, creating a purely entertaining fountain effect. Imagine, I'm thinking of Vegas. Imagine, wine or grape juice coming out of, fountains. Because remember, some of the hotels in Vegas, they look like structures that were made in the days of the Roman Empire, creating a purely entertaining fountain effect. And the winery is surrounded by dining rooms, once richly appointed, that seem to have nothing to do with the production process. So there is a production process that's elaborate, and then there's a dining room. So I guess, after the production, they went into the dining room and they ate and they had wine. Obviously not the wine that was there wasn't wine yet, not from the grapes that were just pressed, but wine that was created before that. On the basis of these clues, archaeologists think the Quintilli served as a kind of imperial toy for the empress. The experts think that enslaved people, slaves, would have pounded grapes in the winery's treading area, most likely slipping about on the luxurious red marble while doing so, to the gruesome delight of the drunk guests. So here you have these slaves on the marble red floor with grapes all over the floor, and they're stamping on them to get the juice out of the grapes. This reminds me, I'm going to show my age a little bit. For those of you that liked I Love Lucy, there was an episode there where Lucy and Ethel were in Italy, and they were in this big barrel in the winemaking region, and it was filled with grapes, and they were crushing the grapes with their feet, and that's how they did it. And they may still do it in some place, I don't know, but that's how they did it back then. And it was pretty hilarious because they were, stomping around in there, stomping on the grapes, and of course Lucy falls down, drags Ethel down too, and they got grape juice all over them. But that's how they used to crush the grapes, with their feet. But now they're doing it on a marble floor where it had to become slippery. The slaves are falling all over the floor, and people are watching them and laughing at it. Romans had, they had some crazy sense of humor back then. They would laugh in the Colosseum when people got killed, it was unbelievable. Attendees from the era's highest social circles would look on as the roughage of crushed grapes made its way down to mechanical presses, which would send juice gushing through fountains set in the courtyard wall and pouring from open channels into dolia, or ceramic, vials, or they were storage jars, in the ground to collect the juice. So they're watching this, and as the juice is being squeezed through these channels, they're going out into these bottles where they're stored. And this is entertainment for them. Pure entertainment. The dining complex could seat 25 to 27 guests. Now, picture this. This is people watching. They're being entertained by the slaves falling all over the floor, crushing the grapes, the juice from the grapes now going into these other channels, spurting out into these jars, and people are watching this and being entertained. A unique opportunity and an absolutely high honor that served not only as a reward to the invitees, but also a way for the emperor to highlight and reinforce his power. I'm not getting how this is a power play, but I guess I can understand it. Maybe because he's forcing the slaves to do this, and he's showing that he can put on a spectacle like this that you can't do anywhere else. So yeah, I guess it is a power play. And banquets at the Quintilli might have been organized ahead of political connections as a way to manipulate results behind the most regal of doors. So in other words, when there was an election coming up, you invite 25 or 27 people of substance, you put on this elaborate show, you feed them, you give them wine to drink, and in a way you're manipulating them into casting a vote in your favor. And it was also a way for them to communicate that, quote, your life is in my own hands. Be aware that if I decide that you're going to die tomorrow, you're going to die tomorrow. Again, absolute power corrupts absolutely. These people, the emperor back then, government, want to let people know that your life is in my hands. Whatever I want to do, I'm going to do to you. If I want to kill you tomorrow, you're going to die tomorrow. And people, I just have to say it, you cannot give the government that much power. And today, if in the United States we see that a political party is weaponizing the Department of Justice, to go after their political enemies, it is very dangerous because anybody can become a political enemy. Anybody. And you don't want that to happen. And it happened in the days of the Roman Empire, and man, I just hope history isn't repeating itself. Such was the state of play in ancient Rome, where death could be employed to expand the empire. That Rome's latter imperial period included banquets of the dead, where actors would dress as demons or afterworld deities and pretend to murder guests for the grim entertainment of others. These people had a weird sense of entertainment, killing people and watching people in the Colosseum behead one another. It's crazy stuff. In addition, drinking wine was a very important symbol of status and prestige. We know that in ancient Rome, in ancient Greece, even today, there's some people that have elaborate wine collections. I don't know if you know this, but I've seen wine collections in the millions of dollars. I don't think they ever drink the wine. They just want to know that they have it. Have these collections. And they maintain their value, believe it or not. So it's, rather than Wall Street, you might decide to have a wine collection. Put your money there. So it's possible that more examples of winemaking as a sport will emerge from other Roman ruins. The discovery at the Quintilli follows that in 2016 of a similar facility at Villamagna, a site in central Italy dated to about 100 years earlier. So we're talking 2 AD, thousands of years before. These thick and fast findings offer hope about what might be unearthed next. It does make you wonder about other periods of the Roman Empire. Was it a common phenomenon, or are we just seeing a handful of incredibly rare examples that particular emperors or super elite people built? I got to tell you, people, again, this is about wine and the Roman Empire, but it just makes me think about the absolute power that some of these governments have. Ancient Rome, they buried themselves. The reason that the Roman Empire fell was immorality. They went broke in many ways. Their military weakened. Are we seeing the same things now in the United States? Again, I'm asking the question, because every great empire doesn't last that long. And I just really hope that we're not seeing, certain signs in the United States that are just very telling. People, remember, whenever an empire crumbles, it crumbles from within. It's normally not an outside force that comes in. It first has to be weakened from within. And we've heard this, about China. China's doing a number on us with fentanyl. I'm going to get into that in another video. They're doing a number on us in social media. There's things available to our young people on TikTok here that are very harmful that are not available in China. And TikTok is a Chinese developed social media site. So anyway, without getting into all of this politics, I thought it was something that you might enjoy, talking about the Roman Empire and the prestige of wine. That's it for today. What do they say? When in Rome, do as the Romans. So that's what I did here in Italy. So that's it for today. How do I always leave you same way? Be safe, be healthy. God bless every single one of you. And yes, I'll see you again, probably from Italy next time.